First, let's start with this case. This Christmas, I decided to order all my children's presents online and have them shipped to my in-laws' house, as we're spending the holiday there this year. My mother-in-law kindly offered to wrap all the gifts before we arrived, and I was grateful for the help. We got to their house yesterday, and after the kids settled into their room, I asked my mother-in-law about the presents. She told me that most were wrapped, with just a few left to finish, and that they were stored in the basement. I offered to help her with the rest, but she insisted I take it easy after our long journey, so I went back to relax with my husband in the sitting room. A couple of hours later, while she was taking a nap, I decided to check on the presents in the basement to see how much was left to wrap. As I looked through the gifts, I noticed that many of the larger presents already had gift tags attached. When I flipped them over, I saw they were labeled, "From Grandma." It wasn't just one or two. It was on all the bigger gifts I had carefully chosen, ordered, and in some cases even personalized for my kids. Feeling frustrated, I went upstairs to talk to my husband about what I had found. He admitted that his mom had asked if she could put a few tags on some of the gifts because, in her words, she didn't want to disappoint her grandsons. He agreed to it, thinking it wasn't a big deal since this is the only Christmas we'll be spending at their home due to the distance. They live 4 hours away. I couldn't help but feel hurt. These were gifts I had spent a lot of time planning and personalizing. Some were expensive, and they were meant to be from my husband and me, not rebranded as gifts from their grandmother. When my mother-in-law came back downstairs after her nap, I decided to address the issue. I explained that I didn't think it was right for her to add her name to the tags without asking me first. She became visibly upset, accused me of being selfish, and even tried to guilt-trip me, saying this could be one of her last Christmases with her grandsons. While I understand she's older, she's 71, she's still healthy and active, so it felt like an unfair argument. She went on to say that I was ruining Christmas, which made me feel even worse. Now I'm torn. I want to avoid tension and make sure the holiday feels magical for my kids. But I'm also upset that she took it upon herself to claim credit for gifts I worked so hard to plan and purchase. I feel like my efforts have been overshadowed. Should I just let it go, leave her tags on, and apologize to keep the peace? Or should I remove her tags, replace them with the ones I plan to use, and suggest that she buys her own gifts next time? I don't want this to ruin Christmas, but it's starting to feel like a nightmare. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. She is overstepping here and taking advantage of a situation. What did she actually get the grandkids? She shouldn't have asked your husband, as we was well aware she did that just to circumvent you. Clearly you were the one she organized everything to do with the presents with until she decided she wanted to put her name on things. Very deceptive of her, and really crappy that your husband didn't tell you right away, even if he was okay with it. Maybe he should help more with presents overall, too. Are you joking? Rip those gift tags off and tell Miel she can buy her own gifts if she doesn't want to disappoint them. This is beyond cheeky, and I can guarantee she's rifled through the presents and chosen the biggest, most expensive ones to present from Grandma. Absolutely not. Your husband is a massive idiot, and the fact they've discussed this behind your back is downright manipulative. I'm actually so angry on your behalf. You're not in the wrong. What a lousy idiot move. She knew you would be upset and sneakily told you it's all fine and ready, so you'll find out when it was too late. You don't want to disappoint your grandsons. Well, how about saving for their big presents instead of leeching from the mom and making her look bad in front of her kids? I just can't understand how people feel so entitled to even suggest such a horrible request, by knowing they are making someone else taking the fall for their lack of preparedness and laziness. You should put your own tags and let her take the fall as she should. Next up, a little backstory. I've been planning a Christmas dinner for Christmas Day for weeks. My parents, 2 of my siblings, and their spouses are all coming over. These plans have been set for quite some time. My husband's father lives out of state and is here visiting while taking care of some family business. His wife passed away recently, so he's now alone. We invited him to spend Christmas Day with us, but he chose to spend it with some of his other children instead. He plans to leave on Tuesday, so he won't be here on Christmas Day. Over the past several days, he's been having dinner with us almost nightly. Last night during dinner, my husband suddenly said to his dad, "We're going to have an early Christmas Monday so we can spend it with you." I was caught off guard and immediately responded, saying I couldn't make that happen. I explained that while I could do a nice dinner, I wasn't able to prepare 2 full Christmas feasts back to back. This morning, I woke up intending to discuss the issue with my husband and ask him to communicate better with me in the future, so these situations could be avoided. However, when I brought it up, his response was that he didn't mean for me to prepare a huge Christmas dinner, and that I shouldn't have assumed that. He also said I embarrassed him by telling him in front of his dad that I couldn't do an early Christmas. It's worth noting that this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Last week, when he found out his dad would be visiting, he told his dad what I'd be cooking for dinner that evening, and only informed me afterward. I had to scramble to change my plans to accommodate what he had promised. I feel frustrated because it seems like my husband could communicate with me first before making promises about meals or events, especially ones that require significant time and effort. At the same time, I wonder if I was wrong to say something in front of his father. Should I have waited and addressed it privately instead? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Is there a reason your husband can't prepare an early Christmas dinner for his father on Monday? You're not in the wrong. I have some experience with people making promises on others' behalf and volunteering others, then throwing fits that those others embarrass them by showing some autonomy and declining. My father did it to my mother and me all the time. Your husband simply cannot do this. His complaint that you embarrassed him is deflecting from the much more important point that you don't work for him. He doesn't own you and your time, and he absolutely may not make any suggestions, commitments, and promises to anyone for any reason if they involve any action on your part, not without securing your consent first. If you don't succeed at driving this point home to him on your own, consider couples counseling. Because boundaries, you're not in the wrong. He shouldn't be volunteering your time. Have a convo with him. Honey, I need you to please communicate with me and ask before you volunteer me to make dinner/do things. In the future, if you promise someone something from me without asking first, you will have to fulfill that promise, because I'm no longer going to drop everything to do it. Next up, I, 27F, have been married to my husband, 29M, for 3 years, and we've been together since we were 18 and 19. In the first 2 years of our relationship, when things were still new, we bought Christmas gifts separately, except for some rare cases. As our relationship became more serious, we started giving gifts as a couple, with both our names on them. Since then, however, he has never helped with buying the gifts, not for my family, our friends, or even his own family. Occasionally, he would give vague suggestions about what someone might like, but those were rare. Even when he offered ideas, I was the one who ended up doing all the shopping. Initially, I didn't mind because I enjoyed gift-giving and picking out thoughtful presents. But now, after 8 years of handling it all alone, it's become exhausting. My life has also changed a lot since we first got together. My career has grown, and I now have significantly less free time. Last year, I asked him before the holidays if we could split the gift-buying responsibilities and each take care of half. Out of about 20 people, he managed to buy a gift for only one person. He kept insisting he would take care of it, but when it came down to it, he forgot. I had to scramble to buy presents for his sister and mother less than 24 hours before Christmas. After that, I told him that this was too much for me to handle on my own, especially now that I'm pregnant. I made it clear that I needed his help this year, and that we would split the gift responsibilities evenly. Fast forward to this year. I bought half of the gifts and he was supposed to buy the other half. But once again, he didn't. Yesterday, I spent 7 exhausting hours at the mall trying to find the remaining gifts. I called him a few times to ask if he thought someone would like a particular item, whether they already had it, or if he had any preferences. His responses were mostly, "I don't know," "maybe," or whatever. By the time I got home, I was completely drained. I'm 6 months pregnant, and this entire process was physically and mentally exhausting. While wrapping the gifts, I decided that since he didn't help at all, I wouldn't put his name on the presents. Normally, we write from Mary and John, not our real names, but this year I wrote just my name, from Mary. Today, as we were packing the gifts into the car to take them to his parents' house, he noticed that his name wasn't on them. When he asked why, I explained that since he didn't help, I didn't think it was fair for him to get credit. He's upset and says this will make him look bad in front of his family. He asked me to change the tags, but I'm reluctant to do so. I admit this might be petty, but I'm at my wit's end. I've asked for help many times, and he doesn't seem to take it seriously. I don't know how else to make him understand how exhausting this is for me, especially now that I'm pregnant. Should I put his name on the gifts? Am I being mean? How can I get through to him that I truly need help? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. You've been carrying this responsibility for him for far too long, and have gotten far too resentful for it to be healthy. Next year, you will have the additional responsibility of a child in addition to the one you married. From my perspective, the best solution is to stop wasting hours shopping at the mall and just give people a combo token gift card combination. Examples: set of wine glasses and a bottle of wine, a box of movie snacks with DVDs or movie tickets, a baseball cap with tickets to a game, etc. Gift giving should not be this stressful, expensive, or time-consuming. If your husband has opted out, just make it easy on yourself by taking the approach I just suggested. As long as you choose things the person likes, it is a thoughtful gift, and it is enough. You're not in the wrong. He's acting like a child, and you're acting like his mom. A mom takes a kid to the mall last minute to shop for gifts. The mom decides what gifts to buy. The mom wraps the gifts. The mom then writes the child's name on the gift. Stop treating him like a child, and let him suffer the consequences of his own actions like a grown man. The humiliation should get him sooner or later, and unlike the gifts, only his name belongs on the guilt, not yours. You're not in the wrong. He should be embarrassed. He's your partner, and you asked for help and he refused. Maybe it will take his family having just your name on the gifts to make him realize he needs to put some effort in. We are similar here, except we've been married 11 years. This year, I flat out didn't buy for anyone in his family, except my niece and nephew because they're kids, and it felt mean not to. And I told him he had to do it. It's Deck's 22nd, and I know he bought nothing. So we will show up empty-handed. And if anyone says anything, I'll flat out tell them it was my husband's turn this year to buy gifts. It's not even about actually giving a gift. It's about how these men can't seem to put effort into anyone or anything else that doesn't interest them. My husband has no problem spending time and effort doing things that benefit him, but has no time to do things for others. And I'm sick of it. Next up, my sister-in-law, who's in high school, wanted a snake, but her mom said no. She asked my husband to co-own one with her, and he agreed. I went along with it since I'd wanted a snake before. We split the costs. My husband and I bought the tank, lights, and bedding, while she purchased some decorative items, and we split the cost of the snake, $200 each. We set up the tank in our spare room. Somehow, I became the snake's primary caretaker, even though the whole thing wasn't my idea. My husband's involvement was minimal. He would mostly drive with me to get rats, a 30-minute drive, and pre-kill them. I handled everything else, feeding, cleaning, and handling the snake. My sister-in-law would visit occasionally, but not often enough to help. After about a year, sister-in-law said she could bring the snake to her career technical school, where she's in an animal program. I thought this was a great solution. I drove her and the snake to school whenever needed, a 35 to 40-minute drive. And the snake stayed at the school for the rest of her junior year, and then again during senior year. However, during breaks, the snake always came back to my house. Now that I'm pregnant, the spare room where the snake is kept will become the baby's room. I've started asking sister-in-law to take the snake after she graduates, in about 5+ months. I told her she'd need to convince her mom to let her keep it, or figure out another solution, like rehoming the snake. Her response has always been the same. She says she'll start caring for the snake when she gets her driver's license, and suggests having a key to my house to come over when needed. I told her that doesn't solve the problem. The snake is taking up space I need. When I pressed her to come up with a solution, she became rude, saying, "F you," and calling me a terrible person for throwing the snake out. She even claimed she's the most mature person in the family. She's 18, by the way, and the youngest of 7 siblings. I've tried to give her plenty of time to figure this out, but her attitude and lack of respect for the fact that it's my house have made this even harder. If she keeps being disrespectful and refusing to take responsibility, I plan to return her $200 and rehome the snake permanently. Am I in the wrong? Edit. Thanks to everyone who's responded. A few clarifications. Sister-in-law is 18, not a child, and she's the one who claims to be the most mature in the family. My husband could have helped more with the snake, but he works long hours, helps take care of our house, and is very involved with our 3 cats, who we've had since they were kittens. While I let his lack of involvement with the snake slide, we've been discussing it, and he regrets not helping more. We live in a single-wide trailer, and the snake's tank takes up too much space. Even if I wanted to keep the snake, there's no logical place to put it once the baby arrives. Let's start judging. Husband promised to take care of it. You are pregnant, with a man that cannot take responsibility of a snake. Mows the time to practice advocating for how to take responsibility. Because when you have the child, you will be at 12 months with the kid, and he will have not diapered, fed, or watched and parented his child. Use the chore chart now to split household chores ahead of having kiddo. Include the snake in that. This is the least expensive chat you will ever have on splitting chores. What a good moment to have. What do chores look like now and when kiddo comes? And don't back down. You became default here because you weren't willing to let something happen to the snake. Get it together now for your own sanity. Everyone sucks except the snake. A snake is a pet, and pets take lots of forethought and planning. It's a commitment to the lifetime of the pet. If you always knew the snake could never stay in the home when you started a family, and sister-in-law could never keep the snake at her house while she's still in high school, I'm not sure why there is now a snake in the mix. She's a kid, and while her attitude and cursing at you sucks, I'm just not sure this was a good idea to begin with. I get that things change and life happens, but I feel as if this was a decision to get a snake just because a teenager was like, "Yeah, always wanted a snake," without actually thinking about how much work and care and enthusiasm goes into one. And everyone just went along with it rather than telling them no and waiting a few years for them to grow up and get one on their own. But hindsight is always 20/20. And lastly, where is the husband in all of this? Are you not at all worried that this lackadaisical attitude to his own pet will translate to his future child? Everyone sucks. Your sister-in-law was a minor, and therefore could not legally enter into a binding contract. While the idea may have been hers, it's really your husband's snake, since he's the adult who actually purchased the snake. He shouldn't have agreed to do so without the understanding that the snake is his responsibility and not counting on a minor. A pet, any pet, is a lifelong responsibility and shouldn't have been entered into lightly. Hopefully you can find a good home for the snake with someone who is more responsible in making that choice.